Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Porrick Dempsey and I'm Chairman of the RT Audience Council, and on behalf of the Audience Council I want to welcome you here this evening for this public event. This public discussion is the Audience Council's annual event for 2014. The role of the Audience Council, for those of you who don't know, is to provide a voice for the viewers and listeners with regard to RTE's public service broadcasting. The Audience Council is made up of 15 members, many of whom are here amongst us tonight, and from all walks of life, who serve in a voluntary capacity. Some of the issues that the Audience Council are looking at the moment are RTE's responsiveness to unemployment and people in poverty. We're also looking at access issues, the reporting of climate change, and the representation of those in the criminal justice system. Tonight, of course, our topic is migrant representation and participation in RTE. We chose to organise this event on this week of St. Patrick's Day because, of course, St. Patrick was our first migrant, and he's also the earliest individual we know who lived in Ireland and who we know about their life. So I work in the Royal Irish Academy, and one of our projects is the Dictionary of Irish Biography, and the first person in the Dictionary of Irish Biography from the very start over the entire run is St. Patrick. So I think it's very fitting and very telling. Our moderator this evening tonight is Andy Pollak. Andy's a very distinguished former director of the Centre of Cross-Border Studies based in Armagh. Before that, he was religious affairs correspondent, education correspondent, and assistant news editor and Belfast reporter with the Irish Times. In the early 1990s, he was coordinator of the Opsal Commission, an independent citizens' inquiry into ways forward for Northern Ireland, and he was also former editor of the Belfast magazine Fortnight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Andy Pollak.
Thank you very much. There have always been migrants in Ireland, as there have always been migrants in every other country. As Boyd just said, St. Patrick came from Roman Britain to Ireland in the 5th century. Jews came to visit Brian Boru's grandson, the King of Munster, in 1079. The Arab geographer al-Idrisi mentioned Ireland in his Book of Journeys in 1154. People of African descent have been here since the 16th century. My father came here as a political refugee from Central Europe in 1948. However, we are an island nation, an island off the European mainland, and our attitudes often reflect that. In the mid-1990s, a friend of mine, an anthropologist and refugee from the war in the former Yugoslavia, described us as an insular people, ignorant when it comes to dealing and living with other cultures. The most famous example of this was Mr. Deasy in Ulysses, telling Stephen Dedalus that Ireland never had a Jewish problem because we never let them in. And yet, nearly 60,000 immigrants have become Irish citizens in recent years. Migrants and the children of migrants have played prominent roles in the politics, starting, some might say, with Eamon de Valera, business and artistic, literary, scientific and sporting life of this country. Generally, we have been spared the worst excesses of racism and xenophobia that have blighted life in politics in some other European countries. This evening we are going to be discussing the role that other voices and other faces of migrants and Irish citizens of migrant background can and should play in our country's broadcast media in general and RTE in particular. A recent study of broadcasting in the New Ireland found that in the eyes of migrant communities, RTE was held to have an important educative role to play in accurately representing the lives and contexts of people who migrate. We will be trying to answer two questions in particular this evening. What would be the benefits to public broadcasting in particular, and to the Irish nation in general, of having more migrant representation on RTE television and radio? And what practical steps should be taken to increase the representation of migrants and Irish citizens of migrant background on RTE? There's one apology. Tom Savage, the chair of the RTE board, apologises that he can't be with us because of a family commitment. So I'm going to kick off. I'm going to ask the members of the panel, and I've said this to them in advance, to speak for 2 to 3 minutes only at the beginning, not more, to start us off. There'll be plenty of time for everybody to come in the 2 hours we have for this event, and then I'll open it to the audience. So I'm going to start off with Ebun Akpoveta. Ebun is employed at business in the Community Ireland as a training and employment officer, where she supports immigrants from over 65 different nationalities. She was born in Nigeria and has been living in Ireland since 2002 with her 2 sons, aged 10 and 11. She has a background in microbiology, went on to study counselling, and graduated from NUI Maynooth with a postgraduate diploma and master's in adult guidance and counselling. She is presently a PhD candidate at the UCD School of Social Justice. She also recently authored a book, Becoming Unforgettable, uncovering the essence of the woman, and a novel, Trapped: Prisons Without Walls. She is a member of the RTE Audience Council, and a columnist with the African Voice newspaper. Ebun Akpoveta.
You can hear me, yeah? No? Okay. Thank you all, and you're absolutely welcome. I would just talk about the purpose of what we're looking at today, migrant participation and representation. I will start by just stating the obvious, that the media and its professionals have a huge power to influence how people act, what people think, what people believe. And that is where we're starting from, the impact that the media can have in affecting what happens in our society. And when we look at, we have over 500,000 people living in Ireland today of a migrant background or of migrant descent. And was looking at the fact that as our national media broadcaster, there is a responsibility, the onus rests on RTE to be able to demonstrate the demographics of Ireland. And it's important for us to know that many people think, oh, this is just all about race. And the main thing I say is, it's not just all about migrants, because if we get it right for migrants, we will get it right for every other person or every other group that has been marginalized in Ireland. And when we look at the fact that we have young people, one of the reasons why this is so important an issue for us to look at is because we have young people. Every time they look on television and they don't see faces that look like these, that look like yours, and the mix that we have in this room today is not reflected from their television, it sends a huge message to them. Again, we're sending a message to people that you don't belong here, that this is not home. And for me, that is why it's so important that we begin to address those issues. We look at things, role models, those are issues that this brings up. Issues of, I love Lupita Young, the girl from the 12 Years a Slave. When she gave her speech on blackness, she mentioned something that really stopped me for a few minutes. That for a few years she had insecurities about her color. But what happened for her was when she saw the Sudanese girl, a Sudanese model on television, and that girl was seen as beautiful, it changed her self-image. She began to see herself completely differently. See, we can't teach kids in school. We can't parent every child. But television plays a huge part, in parenting people. It teaches us how to be, how to speak, what is acceptable. That is the power that the media has. And it's so important that the voices. So when we talk about media participation and representation, it's not just the way migrant stories are written. We have moved from there. Where we started was looking at the way migrants were represented. Now we're saying even in content production, we want a different perspective. We want a different view. We want different voices. And we want to look at how we can normalize difference. Okay, so I will stop there.
That's great. Thanks very much, Ebun Akpoveta. Our second speaker is Logan Raju. Logan is originally from Malaysia. He's been living in Ireland for 30 years. He was the first mayor of Black Rock, and he sits on the committees of an astonishing number of organisations: Friends of Calcutta, Friends of the Elderly, Southside Chinese Residents Association, the Bray Intercultural Committee, the Ireland-India Council, Wicklow County Anti-Racism Diversity Strategy Committee, New Communities Partnership, Dunleary Rathdown Ethnic Minority Forum, and he's a founding member and director of the United Chinese Federation of Ireland. And since he's from Malaysia, you can see he's a walking multicultural man in one. Logan.
Good evening. Thanks for the invitation. And good evening all. And I just have to say thank you. I've been disabled over the past 2 years. Both my legs are banjaxed. So I just have to use a walker, and I have assistants, my Chinese colleagues, my brothers, and really my family, apart from everybody else. I'd just like to say I've been here about 30 years, of Malaysian Indian origin, of a Hindu background, but I've been dealing with, I'm really a Christian too, go to the Catholic Church. I've been to the mosque. I believe in diversity, unification, integration. They come in all sorts and forms. And coming from Malaysia, the thing is, we are a multicultural country. I know we are on the media quite a lot lately, 13 days in a row, which is really very historical for us. But nevertheless, we face our differences too regarding suppression, oppression in the media. I hope I'm not. This is not doesn't go to Malaysia. But the problems that we face is that we have to participate. What's the question about social inclusion, and what is integration all about? And do we have a fair chance? Do we have a fair shot at everything, from employment to the housing to education to everything really as an Irish citizen? Or if you have the privilege of being in this country, Ireland has welcomed us. So how do we get to be able to contribute to society positively? All right, I understand the RT is an equal opportunities employer. So, but to what extent is that practiced? And to what extent do actually the ethnic minority groups are really interested in playing a role in the media? Do they really want to be part of it? Or if they apply for jobs, are they just put in the bin? Or what is really happening? So okay, I know one of my colleagues is in TV3, comes on the programs, and then also News Talk. But to what extent can we actually be able to contribute positively, be active, and most of all, are we being heard? Or rather listened to? We may be being heard, and maybe we are talking, but are we really speaking? And this is where we have to be fair to one and all. And how do we actually penetrate? How do we contribute? We should have less conflict, less condemnation, less competition, and believe more in communication, cooperation, and all the C's, and collaboration. So now the thing is, we have to find another word, C, so that we really get involved, and we must be given a good opportunity to be able to participate. And I also know that many people, young people, they are the future leaders of the country. So having 10% of the community, we have to be able to go in. There's a lot of stereotypes about foreigners. There was something the Vincent Brown show 2 days ago. MRCI was involved on plugging everybody now. But the thing is, how are we going to be given that fair opportunity regarding integration that comes in all forms and sizes? And how are we being able to, to be recognized? We have to be recognized that we are here to stay. And when you are here to stay, you must be able to be part and parcel of the whole thing, the whole package. So we have to be able to, to stand up stand up. And we also, by the way, it's also not a game. This is not a fame game. This is not a name game. This is not just for yourselves. It is for the community at large. You cannot do things for yourself. You must be able to get other people involved. So to get people involved, you must start at grassroots level. Okay? And I know I'm a columnist in the, Metro Aaron as well. But what I say, am I being, certain things I say, am I being, certain things being edited? So that what I really want to get the message across is not out there for the people. So how are we going to be able to penetrate this? How are we going to break the ice? It's a cocoon. It is just one thing there. How do you break that coconut shell? You got to get the coconut first, and you got to get the husk out. And then you can use the husk, and then you break the shell, you break it, then you drink it, and then you eat it. And this is what, we do not want to be a frog in a coconut shell either, because the vision is very limited. And also, we have a great thing in Malaysia. The cow gives the milk, the milkman gets the name. So we have to be able to get everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Logan Raju. And the next speaker is Dil Vikramasinhe. And Dil was born in Rome to Sri Lankan parents, grew up in Sri Lanka. At 21, she decided she would become a flight attendant for Gulf Air, based in Bahrain. And after travelling the world for 5 years, Dil decided to live in Ireland and arrived in Dublin in 2000 with very few savings and no idea what she was going to do. She worked as a kitchen porter, a catering supervisor, receptionist, wages clerk, HR administrator, recruitment consultant, trainer, community worker, social entrepreneur, stand-up comedian, actor, broadcaster, and journalist. And now she is a successful broadcaster hosting the weekly award-winning Global Village show on News Talk 106, 108 every Saturday. And she's also a regular contributor to RT and TV3. Dil.
Good evening. Thank you very much for asking me to be part of this panel. I think this is a very positive initiative, and I'm privileged actually to be here with you and among so many people that I've had the pleasure of working over the years. Just following on from what Ibun said, I too worry about our next generation of migrants. I grew up in Italy, just like exactly as Andy said, and I remember distinctly, I think I was about 6 years old when my mother caught me in the bath scrubbing my skin so I could be white. And that was because in the 70s, when I grew up in Italy, there was absolutely no role models for me. So that is a vivid memory, and the only way I can explain that is self-hatred. Because when you don't see yourself represented, you start actually hating yourself. So that's one thing. And then when I was living in Sri Lanka, I'm so grateful that I do work in media in Ireland, because the reason why I immigrated from Sri Lanka was because the first job I got when I was 19 was working for a radio station. And I knew straight away, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But after 6 months of working for a radio station, doing really well, contributing on Sri Lankan TV, my boss found out I was gay, and he fired me because he thought that A, I'm gay, I shouldn't be on Sri Lankan media, and the least of all, I shouldn't be talking about it. So I knew when I was 19 that the only way I could live an authentic life was to emigrate from Sri Lanka, and that's what brought me to Ireland. And when I moved to Ireland, I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't even think about the media because, as a migrant, when you come to a new country, you start from the bottom, So I started as a kitchen porter, and in 2005, for some reason, when I moved house, we couldn't get on the TV, we couldn't watch Irish TV. So I ended up watching UK television for about 6 months. And when we switched back to watching RTE and TV3 and all the other Irish channels, it hit me like a truck. Because after watching UK television for 6 months, I saw diversity. I got used to it. And then suddenly when I looked at Irish TV and heard Irish radio, I just found it so white. And I remember thinking, this is not good enough, right? And I remember thinking, my dream was to work in media. So I remember being quite annoyed and angry and telling people, why isn't Irish media more representative of us, And I thought, I better stop being an armchair general and start giving out about the system. So let's see what I can do to be part of it. And I started volunteering in Phoenix FM, a community radio station in Blanchardstown. That's anyone wants to work in Irish media, you have to start at community radio TV. And then 2 years later, I started working in News Talk. And now 6 years on, I'm still presenting this program. And I'm very proud to do this, but it's still very upsetting to me that there's very few people in Irish media that are migrants. And sometimes I feel quite a lot of pressure. Can I just say that? Because there's a lot of migrants who come up to me and say, you're doing great work. You're speaking for all of us. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't sleep at night if people think that I'm speaking for a lot of people. And that's the problem here. We need a representation, and of course, I was thinking, what is the problem? Why isn't Irish media more representative? Not just migrants. We are talking about other groups in Ireland, travellers, people with disabilities, members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community. Even the accents that we hear in Irish media are all very similar. I know people who are from Cork, but when they start working in Irish media, suddenly they start sounding like they're all from Dublin 4. And that's really strange to me. So it's not about migrants. It's actually, there's this problem with the whole culture. And that really needs to be addressed. About, being able to, I suppose, like, Logan was saying about this coconut. How are you going to break this coconut? I think that's a lovely image. If you're Asian, you'll understand that image. If you're Irish, I don't know, I might be a bit lost on you. But on my show, we do try and create pathways for people, like work experience. People can come and do work experience on my show anytime. But it breaks my heart that over the years we have had such skilled, such talented people do work experience on my show, and then the doors are not open to them. And it breaks my heart because I can see that the hope literally diminishing, because they are full of talent, they're all very positive, and I'm starting work experience with Newstalk, and God knows where this is going to lead me, and a year later, still nothing, or 2 years later, still nothing happening. And that's very worrying. And I suppose people might think the biggest losers of this might be the migrants or the people working in media, but genuinely the biggest losers out of the lack of representation in Irish media are the viewers and the listeners, because the diversity that we can all bring to Irish media ultimately will actually benefit everybody. Not only will we be creating role models, but we'll also be throwing out different angles and points of views and solutions to maybe so many of the issues that this country is grappling with. So we do have a problem, but the very fact that we're here, I think, is hugely positive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Dil Vikramasinghe. And the next speaker, we now move from Sri Lanka to Poland. And Zbyszek Zielinski, who's well known to many of you. Zbyszek is a Polish-Irish radio presenter and reporter. He's born in Poland. And he's been Zbyszek is a Polish-Irish radio presenter and reporter, born in Poland. He's been an Irish citizen since 2004. He's currently the host of Spectrum on RT Radio 1 Extra. He studied at Mary Immaculate College in Limerick, the University of Łódź, and he did a PhD at Trinity College Dublin. Since 2009, he's been a reporter for RT News at 1 on Radio 1, and also a researcher on John Murray's show. He also presents the show Playback for Radio 1 sometimes, and he's been an RT radio commentator on the Eurovision Song Contest. So, Zbyszek.
Thank you. Andy, thank you so much, and thank you for introducing me as a Polish-Irish radio person. That is really touching and really nice. Can I just correct one thing? I'm not an Irish citizen yet, and unfortunately I have just renewed my Polish passport, because to become an Irish citizen it would actually cost me €1,100, and my Polish passport was coming to an end, and I was hoping that I was going to become an Irish citizen, but it was just a very simple cost and benefit analysis. Polish passport costs only €110. And as we are members... I would love to have an Irish passport. And actually, to get a Polish passport here is 4 times more expensive here than to get one in Poland. But that's a story for another time. I come through these doors that you come in through every single day, Monday to Friday at 6:59 or 7:10 if I'm running a bit late, because my main job here in RT Radio 1 is a researcher on the John Murray Show, which is a program broadcasting on RT Radio 1 between 9 and 10 every single day and presented by John Murray. And I sometimes think that when people call me or when I do my briefing calls, and I have to spell my name, because obviously when I say, this is Zbyszek Zielinski from the John Murray Show, or when somebody says, who am I speaking to? And I say, this is Zbyszek Zielinski, the first answer is usually, what? Or what? Or what was that? many times people say, Peter, great to talk to you. Peter, so Peter, tell me. And I'm like, no, it's not actually Peter, it's Zbyszek. Yeah, Peter. So when I go on and say zebra, Barbara, yellow, Siobhan, zebra, Elaine, kilo, or I can also do it in airplane speak, Zulu, Bravo, and so on, I sort of feel, and sorry to be so facetious, but I also feel when I do that I'm sort of at an interface between the public broadcaster and people who are all of a sudden stuck that somebody with my accent and my very unusual name, and it is a name unusual also in Poland, unfortunately. So when I go there, there's no let up. And that people are stuck, that all of a sudden they call one of the biggest programs on Irish radio, and they hear this voice, and they hear this weird name, and they, for better or worse, have to deal with this person if they have a query, or if they want to get an item on air, or if I want them to get on air. And why am I saying all of this? I'm saying this because I sort of feel a bit of, Dale mentioned pressure that she feels when people come up to her and say, you're doing great work. I feel a little bit of a pressure sitting here representing RTE and being part of RTE, looking at you, and I sort of feel that, you know, that a bit of a focus is, okay, you're here, what have you done for us? Or you're here, how can we be here with you? Or, you know, what are you going to do next? And I do admit that there is loads that we all could do here, both in this building and in other buildings on this campus. And there's loads that we haven't done yet. And there's loads that we would like to learn from you. But I presume this is the first step or a step of many that we can take. And I'm here to listen to you, to learn from you what I could do better in my job. Because in a way, I've been normalized, and everybody here in this building and perhaps in other buildings around the campus, some people know me and they would say hello. And I feel incredibly welcome here. And I was actually remarking on that to my colleague Deirdre this morning, that walking around the corridor, I always feel this feeling of belonging. You know, this boy from Łódź in Poland, who 10 years ago was still there, you know, walks around the corridors of the biggest, you know, media company in Ireland and feels that he belongs, even with that very peculiar name and a surname and a very peculiar story. But I do feel that I would like to find, or I would like to pass in a corridor, another Zbyszek, or another Ibun, or a Logan, or somebody else. I would like to feel perhaps that we all belong, that there's not just one person that feels like that. And I know that there is capacity, willingness, and openness to RTE, because I feel so welcome and such a part of it. And I do believe that there is space for more people like me. But we all have to work together at it. And I'm not, by no stretch of imagination, am I saying that we have done things, you know, perfectly. Because it's impossible. And it's too big a question to answer perfectly. There's no perfect answers. And it's a constant process of negotiating this relationship. Just like I'm negotiating the relationship between being Polish and being Polish-Irish, being a young man and being a researcher in RT Radio 1. You know, I have to negotiate, and we all have to negotiate all these relationships. And I also have to negotiate relationship and my work. My work is a researcher on the John Murray Show. I have to provide content for that program. But I also feel responsibility that as an immigrant to this country, I should perhaps work harder on negotiating the relationship of a public broadcaster with the immigrant community. But perhaps just me being here helps a little bit when people hear my accent and hear my name on the airwaves. And I do as much as I can, but I know that I should and could do more. So I'd be very, very willing to hear from you, your ideas on how we could work together at sort of arriving at a situation where more people with unusual names and unusual accents are on the airwaves and on our screens.
Thank you. That was Zbyszek Zielinski. And our next speaker is another well-known migrant journalist in Ireland, Sinead Onyedjelem. Sinead is the editor and publisher of Ireland's Multicultural Fortnightly now. For many years it was weekly, but all newspapers are under pressure these days. Metro Éireann. He holds a master's degree in ethnic and racial studies from Trinity College Dublin. He's a native of Nigeria and has lived in Ireland for 14 years and is now an Irish citizen. I think I'm right on that one this time, aren't I? After moving to Ireland in 1997, he worked freelance for a number of publications, including the Irish Times, where I met him, the Garda Review and the Irish Catholic. He's the founder of the Metro Éireann Media and Multicultural Awards and the Ethnic Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. And he was a recipient of a People of the Year Award in 2006 in recognition for his work on multiculturalism. Sinead.
Thank you very much, Andy. As Andy said, he actually assisted me when I first went to the Irish Times. It's always good to see him. I wouldn't really start this discussion without mentioning Seamus Dooley, the current secretary of NUJ, Irish secretary of NUJ. He has been in the forefront of promoting cross-cultural understanding and cooperation within, the media. So thank you very much, Seamus. Well, contrary to what Andy said, I am here nearly 17 and a half years. And in the last 13 years, I have played a very active part in media. Even here in OTE, I think I'm probably the only black African who has presented a show on Morning Ireland. And I did that for 5 days. 3 minutes every day for 5 days, even though I was, criticized in Irish Sunday Independent for the work I did for OTE. Apart from Morning Ireland, I have been almost on all the mainstream TV programs and radio programs, and it's always, an opportunity for me to come here and not only, say what I think, but to listen and to understand what happens in OTE. Most of the staff I've met here are extremely good people. But the problem we have with OTE is in relation to policies and programs. They are not up to standard. If OTE is talking about moving forward, they absolutely need to review what they have in terms of policies and programs. It is not friendly to immigrants. It is not friendly to so many people, not only immigrants. So that would be the starting point. If you look at accent, I think 2 speakers mentioned the issue of accent earlier on. That is, what many OTE broadcasters always talk about is an issue. Nobody will listen to us. A former OTE presenter, radio presenter, said publicly at an event that because of accent, which many migrants have, that it is not favoring them to come on board and work as broadcasters. And my response to him when he made this comment at an event hosted by the Africa Center so many years ago, my response then was, why is it that President Nelson Mandela, whose accent is, very strong, comes to Ireland, makes a comment, everybody's, cheering him, clapping for him. Why is it that Archbishop Desmond Tutu comes to Ireland, says something, everybody wants to listen to him? So there are some VIP accents, and there are some that are not good. So we need to look at that. Beside me, you can see Dale, you can see Zbyszek. I'm not sure if anybody here would complain about their accent. And if not, why should they not be mainstream on OTE? Why should they not be broadcasters? Why should they not, become big people on OTE? It is an issue that RTE needs to look at if it is serious about moving forward. Another thing I want to talk about is the issue of programs. Many programs RTE is doing. Some travel programs are presented to us as multicultural programs or intercultural programs. I think we need to call a spade a spade. If you want to be inclusive, we are living in Ireland and we want to know what immigrants in Ireland are up to. What are their successes? What are their failures? You don't take a Nigerian because he's getting married to an Irish person. You travel to Nigeria and you say you're presenting a multicultural program to us. It's not right. So we need to look at that too. Another thing I want to mention is the issue of content and staffing. If OT is serious, I think they need to look at the percentage of immigrants in Ireland. Currently, I don't think that immigrants, in terms of content on OTE programs, I don't think is up to 1%, whereas immigrants are more than 12, 13, 14%. They need to look at that. OTE needs to look at staffing. Apart from, recruiting broadcasters, other areas, even in administration, even in reception, even in the canteen that we were in, we need to reflect the diversity that we see in Ireland. RTE board of directors, I think their time is coming to an end. Would there be any problem, a migrant being elected to the board of RTE? I don't think there would be any problem. So, for the last 15 years, I think RTB has been talking about moving forward for 15 good years, as far as I can remember. I don't know whether today, it's still a talking shop or, we are going to be very serious. And if you're going to be serious, I think you need to address some of the issues that were raised over 15 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Chinedu Onyejelem. And finally, Kevin Backhurst. Kevin is the Managing Director of News and Current Affairs and Deputy Director of the Irish State Broadcaster RT. And Kevin is also a migrant. He was formerly the controller of the British digital news challenge BBC News from 2005 to 2012. He's also a former controller of BBC News at 1 Bulletin, deputy head of the BBC Newsroom. He's also been the producer and assistant editor of the BBC 9 O'Clock News, a BBC News correspondent in Brussels, and editor of the BBC 10 O'Clock News. During his 2 years as editor of the BBC 10 O'Clock News, it won a BAFTA for its coverage of the Madrid bombings and the Royal Television Society Award for News Programme of the Year. Kevin Backhurst.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me on the panel, and you're very welcome, everyone here, to RTE. So I'd like to say this is a topic that at RTE we take extremely seriously, and we've had a lot of discussions about it. It may have been going on for 15 years, but I've only joined it in the last 18 months. But there are discussions going on. And Iban made the point about the huge power of the media here and similarly elsewhere around the world, but the power of the media and the responsibility the media has. I think the example of young people looking at the media and seeing are there role models for them is a graphic illustration of that. And I think it's important for us at RT to think about what is the right thing to do. We are bound by law. We need to provide output for all interests under law here. But it's not a legal question for us. It's a moral responsibility. We should be doing better on this front. And there is a determination that we should do. As the public service broadcaster here, my view is we have a unique obligation to represent the lives and voices of this nation, which now consists of a very rich mix of ethnic and cultural diversity. That in turn means that we need to constantly evaluate our output, the voices we have on air, the presenters, and our programs to see if we can more fully reflect this important goal. But there are difficulties along the way, and I'd like to just outline two of them as part of the discussion, because there are practical difficulties in doing this. I think as one or two people touched on, and Logan was one of the people who touched on it, we have a lot of issues to think about portrayal of people from different parts of society. It's not just about the new Irish. In my view, we still have a lot of work to do about the portrayal of women on our output and the range of women that we interview. We're doing a bit better on presenters, but still in terms of interview guests. We've got to think about the use of Irish language, which remains an important part of our remit. We need to think about how we reflect urban and rural Ireland and how we reflect them to each other. We need to think about how we reflect older people in Ireland and younger people in Ireland, and also how we reflect the regions and the accents of Ireland itself. So those are all parts of the matrix, and another part of the matrix, obviously, is how we reflect the new Irish properly. On recruitment, and that was a point you just touched on just now, we need actively to be thinking about how we reflect modern Ireland when new people join the organisation. But there's a particular issue for us there, which is in the last 5 years, RTE has been a shrinking organisation. We've lost 500 staff over the last 5 years. We've not been very actively recruiting. 500 people have gone and there's a handful of new people come in. But I think the key question for us, which is something that Logan touched on, is when we do go outside and recruit, how do we make people from minority groups think that RTE is a place that they should be aspiring to work at, that they want to work at, that it's a place they'll be welcome in, where they'll find other people like themselves and they'll feel at home here. And that's a real challenge for us as well. I would like to say I think we have some successes to look at, particularly in the area of young people's programming, where we already have a significant number of contributors, presenters and participants from multicultural backgrounds. And when I was looking into this, one example is Ready Steady Sport, which there was actually an audit done of the participants, and I think 80 out of 400 were from a minority background. The new series of Dragon Den, which is going to start very shortly, I'm told features the business ventures of some of Ireland's new nationals. The Voice of Ireland has obviously got people from diverse origins, including Asian origin, East European and African descent. And in news, I know that's my area. I know that Nationwide regularly features and the success stories of the new Irish, and I'm very proud of the fact that that programme does it. And in particular, I talked about the younger audiences, but our TV news programme for young people, News Today, has got a very good record of diversity. In fact, last week, Orla Walsh, one of the presenters, she reported from 2 schools in Mullingar to mark International Day, which was actually about celebrating the people who've come from a range of different countries and backgrounds. So, we are making some steps forward, but, I want to underline we're not complacent about it. We recognise the challenges. I've tried to outline some of the difficulties that we need to kind of consider in how we address them. But we know we've got more work to do. We're working on it. But I also would really welcome the ideas of people here tonight about how we can address some of those issues, particularly about how we portray RTE when we are recruiting more people as somewhere that people would aspire to from different communities around Ireland to work in. Thank you.
Kevin Backhurst, Deputy Director General, thank you very much. Okay, now it's over to you. I hope I get one of those dreadful silences now. It's open. We have an over an hour. Okay, somebody here.
Thank you very much, guys, for all your thoughts. And I'm from Russia, and my name is Evgenia. So for Ireland, I'm Eve because I adjusted to the like people not to be able to pronounce my name, so I don't care. Whatever is easier. So but when people ask me where are you from, and I said I'm from Russia, I don't feel comfortable about this. And I'm going to quote one spiritual leader, Krishnamurti, and he expressed this idea. When you call yourself an Indian or a Muslim or a Christian or a European or anything else, you're being violent. Do you see why it is violent? Because you're separating yourself from the rest of the mankind. When you separate yourself by belief, by nationality, by tradition, it breeds violence. So a man who is seeking to understand violence doesn't belong to any country, to any religion, to any political party or partial system. He is concerned with a total understanding of mankind. So by saying that I was born in Russia, but it wasn't my choice to be born in that country, even though I'm proud of my country, of my origins. But I could have been born in Africa, in Somalia, as a beautiful girl sitting next to me, or anywhere else, So my thoughts about Ireland, being a foreigner here, I was sent here for education, and I love Ireland. I wouldn't call it home. I don't know where is home, but I just love people. I love. They're so open and so inspiring, And one of the examples that the Irish media, they listen to us. If you are proactive enough, and if you don't sit on your chair and waiting for something to happen, if you're actually doing something, you'll be heard. Because a simple example, the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland, who distributing the budget for radio and TV programs all around Ireland, they recently they commissioned my program that I've submitted, because they saw the passion that I put in words, and are saying, what we want to do is to show Dublin through the eyes of foreign people, because it's going to consist of 21 episodes, 10 minutes each. So what we're going to do is just take a inspiring person and go around with him around Dublin, so he can say what he likes, what type of food he likes to eat, something special. Because Dublin is a funky city, everybody goes to London, and I say, guys, come to Dublin. It's a fantastic city. Because the negligence of people out there, people outside of Ireland, they have lack of knowledge about this country first and about the city. And with this program, I really hope to spread the word about Dublin. Even though I wasn't born here, but I have a call within myself, within me, to say that, listen, this is Ireland, this is beautiful people, Irish people. Of course, they're giving out. People love to give out, especially Irish, And that's them. But apart from that, there is a beauty around us. There is a beauty of knowing the farmers, of talking to them. So, and what I want to say, that we are hurt, and once we bring a positive message, there are people who listen to you. So it's up to us to make a difference. And even RTE, I don't know if there are any initiatives going to be lined up in the future, where, for example, I know, if I submit my idea and there is my name, which is not Irish, would be my idea be accepted, or so, kind of, it won't be rejected straight away because, she's not local, Yeah. Okay, man. Thank you very much, guys.
The panel were very disciplined. I asked them to keep to 2 to 3 minutes. Could I ask you all to keep to 2 minutes as well, so that we can get as many voices as possible? Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Andy. My name is Ken McHugh. I'm from Sport Against Racism. I'm just wondering, it's a question for Kevin. I'm just wondering, would you be interested in imparting some of the good practices of the BBC? For example, we often deal with the Equality and Diversity Officer in the BEAB, and also the areas of pronunciation as well. I heard Mr. Paxman describing Chapel, we call it Chapel Izod. He described it correctly as Chapel Izod there a couple of weeks ago on the programme. This is very important because, particularly in my area in sport, there's a footballer with Shamrock Rovers. His name is Chukwuemeka Nwubiko, and they call him in RTA Emeka. No, his name is not Amika, and I've tried to correct the commentators on this. You'll also hear the people using terms like colonial terms like mixed race, half caste, non-national is a regular title to use for people who they're trying to degrade. You also, when you mention the categories, you omitted disability. This is a very important area. Again, RTA haven't come up to the percentages, and I hope that's not being used as a benchmark for migrants. Finally, and thanks for giving me the floor, Andy. 4 years ago, I was at a round table with, I think it was 4 years ago, Speech Act, yeah, a round table we had on migrants in the media, and I gave the chair a list of names of young people who could come in as interns in RTA, and not one single person had been followed up on. And I think that's a shame. So we really need action, yeah. And finally, we have the World Cup coming up now this year, and it would be really nice to have somebody from an African background talking about the African teams that are in the World Cup, so they don't make a complete show themselves on the TV. That's okay.
That's good.
There's so many areas to cover here. It's really important that, as I said, that we have action, and it'd be really nice to hear your thoughts on the Equality and Diversity Officer. I think that'd be a major step forward. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say I strongly agree that media plays a huge impact on us young people. I came to Ireland when I was 14, and today I'm 26. So basically, I've spent half of my life in this country. So what I want to say is that years ago, I decided to watch Fair City. I started with Fair City. And I love my soap, so I decided to watch it. I liked it for the first week, and I followed some of the storylines, and I thought they were great. But then after the first week, I didn't see anything I could connect to. And so my friends, we all tried to watch it. I tried to get them into it. They could not recognize themselves with it. So instead, we watched British soaps, EastEnders, Hollyoaks, and all that stuff. And my sisters, who are in their teens right now, they also follow British soaps simply because in all the soaps, in British soaps, we can see ourselves in them. And the other thing is that because of this, growing up, I found it very difficult to adopt an Irish accent simply because I fear that if Irish people see a black person who sounds Irish, they'll look at me very strange. It's not unusual to see a black person who sounds British because we see it, we're used to it, we see it. However, when you go into an interview or you're speaking to Irish people and you have an Irish accent, they'll stare at you, you're crazy. What's wrong with you? So, and I'd say if you incorporated a lot of immigrants and most of these soaps that, for example, Fair City, and get Irish people to be accustomed to it so that it doesn't seem very unusual, it's a great way of integrating immigrants into the Irish society. Thank you.
You can also use it if you feel like it. There are mics here if you want to get up and speak to mics. There's a gentleman there, yeah?
Hello, thanks. Great to see such a great, diverse and informed panel. My name is Johnny. I'm from Offaly. It's in the middle of Ireland. Okay, so I got a few laughs. I feel like an outsider in my own country a lot of the time. So I think I'm in good company here. Just a few points quickly about RT. The voice, the D4 voice, everyone outside of D4 thinks that as well, so it's a common thing. I suppose what I've seen, I've been banging my head against the wall because I don't want to wreck the television. So an awful lot of output the RT have for a long while. As I say, I grew up here. I'm from Offaly. I'm living and married in Kilkenny now. Basically, I don't think that RT has ever, in my lifetime, done enough to give a good output of creativity and originality. And if all you've got to do is look at the schedule right now and you see the banality that's there, it's absolutely disgraceful. So with that in mind, I was in Ballyfermot. I studied music management and media studies for about 2 years, learned everything there is to know about the industry, but as anyone here in media will tell you, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So I went along, thankfully I was brought up with two parents, and they instilled in me principles and integrity and respect people as you'd like to be respected yourself. So I've never seen anything on RT up through the years to say that this is good, this is avant-garde, this is something different. There's never been that program. There has been in Spats on the waterfront. If people remember 1991, The Commitments was a book by Roddy Doyle, and it was put into film, and it was an unbelievable film. And it basically kick-started the original. They said Dublin was the home of 100 bands, original bands. That's what made me want to go up into Ballyfermot, to be part of that, be part of that change. Basically, I've challenged Louis Walsh as a hot press. I'm jumping here now, and I appreciate Chairman.
Don't go on too long.
Of course, but I challenged Louis Walsh in a forum in hot press in the RDS. Hot Press is a music magazine, and I've asked him how he is accorded so much freedom to go around RT on programs. Who do I talk to get that same lease, I suppose? Because I've got original acts to promote. I'm a promoter. I lose money hand over fist promoting originality. The point, the story of here tonight is stating what's the obvious and is there conclusions. Okay, here's a quick one. I lived in Dublin in 1998 in Rathmines. I went to see Jamaica play Japan in the World Cup. There was a guy from Jamaica, a guy from Japan. They were sitting having a pint. I said, how's it going, guys? How did you meet? This is before Facebook, 1998. We met on an email. So that kick-started the idea. There's 32 countries in the World Cup. That was the first year, 1998 in France, the World Cup. And this is back on this gentleman. I've been to Sarri as well, so I know exactly where he's coming from. I've followed the line of what's happening in this country, and I know we can make it better. But this Japanese man and this Jamaican man became friends because of football. I'm a big Bob Marley fan. I think wherever he went in the world, he represents freedom, and he was a great football player as well. So 32 countries, 32 counties on the island of Ireland. Each county adopts a country, takes on that country's culture, cinema, everything to do with the arts. You have a blitz, you get the schools involved. It's very tough to listen to me now because I've got to take off the accent if you can understand me anyway. But my idea is forward. I set up a website, immovingforward.com. immovingforward.com. Everyone in this room, I think, wants to move forward.com. I have ideas. I have no money. I've got ideas. And I think RTE have a responsibility to everyone that has ideas because they're short of them, as far as I can see. So thank you very much for your time.
Just on that point, I mean, we are here to try and make suggestions of ideas to RTE. We have Kevin, who's a very significant person at the top of RTE, so he's listening. So if you have suggestions or ideas about how we could hear more migrant voices, see more migrant faces, what kind of programs, what kind of input they could provide, they could contribute, please, good suggestions are very welcome.
Can I ask something? I mean, people have asked questions.
Yeah.
Now, I've got quite a good memory, but not that good a memory, so if you want me to answer them, do you want me to answer them as we go along? Because I've written some.
That goes for any member of the panel.
But I've written some. I mean, there were some interesting questions, but I'm not going to be able to. I haven't got room in my paper to write many more down here, so I'd rather try and pick them up as we went along. Eve asked, I think, if you submitted an idea, would it count against you if your name was Russian on it? The answer is absolutely not. If the idea is good enough, we'd welcome it from wherever it comes from. And we are receptive. We commission a lot of programs from independents, a very high percentage on TV and radio, and we're very open to doing that. So if you've got a good idea, commission away. I mean, the head of Radio 1's here, the head of TV's here, so there are people in the room here who are responsible for commissioning that kind of stuff, and we do commission a lot of stuff. The gentleman mentioned when I was talking about portrayal that I missed out disability. You're quite right, I did. I shouldn't have done, but that's yet another thing we think about. We try and make sure we that disabled people are portrayed in the right way and get the access that they should do onto the airwaves. But again, that's an area I still think we're not doing well enough on. I thought the World Cup idea about getting an African voice on was a good idea. Glenn Ghislaine's here, so Glenn can pick that up. And I think the point about soaps is a good one, actually. I think for younger audiences, that's an area probably. Someone talked about the BBC and some of the initiatives of the BBC. I don't think the BBC's done well enough. You know, famously, Greg Dyke accused the BBC of being hideously white, and I'm not sure it's made massive strides. Instead, it's made some strides. And when I was there, we were working hard on it, but hasn't done brilliantly. But soaps is one area that it has made good progress in. I think EastEnders is a very different programme than it was 10 years ago. So that is an area. So hopefully that's answered a few of the questions that were raised. I don't know, Brian Dalton's here, aren't you? Sorry, Brian Dalton's in charge of kind of human resources and so on here. So.
Yeah, equality is part of how we recruit people, and we're obligated to recruit on merit. In terms of equality officer appointing somebody, we can have a designated person to look at how we do and to ensure that we set targets for ourselves. So yes, we can look at that.
Can I just mention, Andy?
Sorry. I'm going to go to the audience, cool. And then I'll come back to you next, okay?
Thank you. My name is Salome Bugwa from Akidwa, the Migrant Women's Network in Ireland. I'm actually very happy that we are discussing this today and we are involved because my organization, together with Forum Poronia and Africa Center, we've been working on a project called Democratic Participation of Migrant. And actually it has been very, very challenging, trying to get organizations and government departments which are involving migrants or checking even at what level they're involved. So I think this comes very timely. I also want to highlight to what Ebun said at the beginning there, because I think and I believe, apart from us representing ourselves in the media, it's very important that we are seen in the audience. For example, I was invited to come to Late Late Show last December. And actually, when I was coming with my friend, I told her we'll be the only very beautiful people there. That's right. And it actually turned out to be the same. And you see, it's just because I had contact with my friend, Tabadi, that's how I ended up there. But I think it gave a very clear message. Actually, that night, our phones, people sent messages and text, saying, were you there in the audience? I think that challenges stereotype, and the myth that people have out there about migrants, because really and rarely, if you look at, for example, Late Late Show, you do not see that diversity that we have here. So apart even from talking about presenting, because that is very important, we can start with the audience. And in the audience is actually very easy because it's just bringing people in the audience. Yeah. So I would really like to request that the RT make that happen, that we start with that. But also, people being involved in the board of, RTE and in every element. If we are actually going to make things change and happen in this country, we have to make it that way. And I also do like the way you came with the whole aspect of women, because my organization really and clearly advocate for women. And it's very important that we count women when we talk about audiences in the media or presenters in the media. Women are very important, and their voices should be heard. They articulate differently, and they are a very important part of the community. Thank you.
Hello. Could we have a significant part of a late show, maybe, Kevin, with some migrant voices and migrant faces everywhere in the audience and some top migrant Irish people on the panel, on the stage with Ryan? Would that be a good idea? I'm just going to go to Chile.
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, considering the fact that all of us, especially those who have TV in their houses, migrants, pay TV license, do you not think that positive discrimination could be used in terms of recruitment, in terms of providing content, in terms of getting immigrants involved in OTE? Because probably one of the reasons why OTE hasn't really moved forward is that we haven't revoted. There has not been any revote. We haven't come out to, publicly protest and say, look, we are paying TV license and we need to get a fair share of what is happening in OTE. Thank you.
Sorry?
Do you want to come back on that? Or do you want to wait?
Yeah, I can come back on positive discrimination. I mean...
Affirmative action.
Sorry?
Affirmative action.
Affirmative action, yeah.
Cool.
AFFIRMATIV.
Yeah, okay. Well, in terms of recruitment, affirmative action or positive discrimination that's not really possible because it's against the law here. So, we just got to make sure we're fair in recruiting, and we got to look for opportunities. I think the BBC had the same thing. The BBC set targets and objectives and quotas. They haven't met them, but they were quite what was more useful was actually for people to know what the percentage was inside the organisation and to try and improve it from them rather than set some target they weren't going to be able to meet. But I think one of the key things is to come back to where I was before, which is trying to make it clear that this is an organisation that people should aspire to work in from lots of different backgrounds.
Sorry, Andy, can I...
Okay,
We
have the microphone here.
Okay, there's a lady here, I think. And I haven't got the gentleman over there as well.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. My name is Damilola Oduoli. I present the African Saying on 103.2 Dublin City FM, and also an active volunteer with New Communities Partnership Ireland. I'm just quite happy that this is happening. I personally would have expected this to happen a long time ago. I was saying this to everyone earlier on, and we've always discussed about this. So thank God it's happening eventually. And my first question is, why is there always a Western-centric view? Take, for example, say, a report is being, something is being reported, say, for example, from Somalia or Egypt. Why can't we get an Egyptian journalist to talk about it? Why can't we get a migrant on the board or on the show to talk about it? Why do we always have to get an Irish or a lecturer, say, for example, from UCD or TCD, to talk about issues affecting migrants? There is an African adage that goes that whoever is putting on the shoes knows where it's pinching. So we know what's affecting us. We know how it feels. Why would someone be talking to me what affects me? Thank you very much. And also, there was a remark that I read. I'll just read it here. I have it down. A remark was once made by a representative from RTE's Irish Language and Multicultural Commissioning Department, and I quote, it says, an Irish audience always responds better to an Irish face on the screen, or if there's an Irish angle to a story. I personally find this discriminating, like seriously. I'm pretty sure that everyone understands what I'm talking about right now. Do you understand my language? Please, do you understand what, like I'm talking? Why can't I be on the TV to talk? Why can't I personally know about 2-3 different migrants in radio that present a radio show like myself. We can understand what they say. We can understand the point they're making. Why can't I, stand there and talk? Why would I be told that people will understand if my skin color is not black and if I'm white? It's upsetting, I have to say. And also, there is usually the word most people use in the media, and they will be like black Irish. I'm originally from Nigeria, and I'm an Irish national at the moment. I think it would be better to use the word Dami is of an African background.
That's right.
She is of African descent, and not just the word black, for example. Also, I think a few people mentioned about the accent. I would think personally that this should be looked at in a positive light, in the sense that if I turn on the TV and I see someone with an accent, that would make me be able to identify with them more. So that is an additional percentage of viewers that would be tuning into RTE to watch the program. So I think that shouldn't be seen as a negative point, but rather as a positive point as well. And lastly, I'm sorry for taking our time. The young lady did mention about Fair City. I don't watch it, but a few times that I've seen it, I know there is like an African lady that is on Fair City, and she is the character is an asylum seeker. Why is this always the case? You know, even when we do have that minute representation in the Irish media, it's always derogatory. It's always been portrayed as a victim. I think we should showcase more of our strengths. I'm not just talking for Africans alone, but, you know, generally the migrant community. Our strengths should be showcased more rather than showcasing the negative and, you know, the victim ego. Thank you very much.
Hi. My name is Guy Jones. I'm from the Irish Lebanese Cultural Foundation. I think Lebanon has a fair airtime, I believe, on RTE, whether it is TV or radio. I led a program on an FM station, and it was very interesting because all the program was done through English, talking about relations between Lebanon and Ireland, etc. And there is very deep relations that we can dig on. I also facilitated a program for RTE, which was Welcome to My World. And I think that program was a wonderful program. And in my idea, why isn't there more of this kind of program coming up on RTE more often? Let people in Ireland learn about the other, if I may say, and then bringing it in such a positive way. I think the program was a success, and it is probably nice to see it repeated. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Egid. I'm 16 years in Ireland. I'm from the Congo. I think most of the stuff that I wanted to say, my sister there told about them. But something struck me here, people talking about accent. And I'm sure a lot of us, we have accent. Recently with my colleague, we went to UCD to speak with the Union of African Students in DCU, sorry. And I was really very touched by the fact that they didn't have our accent. They were speaking totally like Irish people. And if you are blind, you wouldn't think that you are addressing children or people from the African origin. So most of these children were born here, or they came here, they were very, very young. And so I was just thinking and there are a lot of them doing media or journalism or whatever, they can be very good journalists indeed. And if OT can start targeting, we have a lot of children, a lot of migrants who have very good skills and they can do very good jobs here in mainstream media. Not only playing subordinate role, coming here to talk about issues of migrant, and a lot of Irish people, I'm sure they will just switch off the TV because it's something that doesn't concern them. And talking about something that concerns all the community. It's about all of us. We are all a community. And another thing that I wanted to raise about education, again, about our children who are born here. And they know that the parents came from Africa, from Asia, from other places of the world. And what they know about these places, it's what Irish people tell them. And so they have very limited knowledge of where they're coming from, and yet they feel that they're linked with these places. So the media plays an educational role as well. And only people who are coming from these places can tell you better. I can represent myself better, not another person representing me exactly like my sister said. When it's issues, and we can see that with Radio France Internationale or TV5 or whatever, when they're talking about Africa, it's actually people who came from Africa making comment, etc. And they do it better because they know better the context. So it's something that OTA should look at. Thank you.
Thanks. I have a few points just in relation to the recruitment policies. I worked for about 10 years in Irish recruitment. So I have a very deep concern around how recruitment happens in RT, not just in RT, but just in media in general. Because even in my own experience, it's when you go for a regular job, you send a CV in and you go for an interview. But it doesn't work like that in media. It's a question of who you know and waiting for the phone to ring. That's been my experience. I didn't send a CV anywhere, and that's wrong. Because after all, the media world is the workplace. So it needs to really take on the same policies that are a part of the Irish best practice when it comes to recruitment. So that's point number one. And this is not just to RT, this is across the board, even commercial media as well. I think the audience idea from Salome is fantastic, but also from a contributor point of view, I find researchers sometimes, because you don't have enough time, because you're under pressure, you tend to go to the same contributors because they're tried and tested, and we need to get someone on really quick, and we know him and he's reliable. But you know what? That's not good enough. Contributors, as researchers and producers, need to make time to help and mentor, and because some people find it hard to come on media. I know the first time I had to go on media, I remember being actually physically ill before I went on air, So migrants are going to feel like that. So we need researchers and producers to support that. Most of the guests that I have on Global Village, I have never done media before. But I know how long it takes to talk to them, to make them feel comfortable, to make them a cup of tea, maybe speak to the presenter as well, so that'll make the contributor more comfortable. So if you do that, you'll actually have more people interested in contributing in shows. Because at the moment, migrants, especially first-generation migrants, it's daunting to work, to come and contribute on national radio or national TV. It's a scary thing, especially when English is your second language. So you need the support. And I was thinking there's this great idea that I don't know if you've heard of Women on Air, which is an initiative to get more women on air. And they meet once a month, I think, and they have various workshops, and they have women who are already in media, who are experienced, who mentor other women. Why can't we have a Migrants on Air or Diversity on Air group where I'm happy to volunteer, where we'll organize something on a monthly basis where we meet and do workshops, we do training workshops, we get people to actually come on programs like, for example, my show, which is quite relaxed and quite friendly. You're not going to get ambushed on my show. So that kind of stuff. So that will actually give contributors or potential people who want to get in media at least a pathway to get started. And then finally, can I just say, I'm not new Irish, I'm Irish. Okay, and I actually don't like that term because I 10 years, I was squeaky clean, got my Irish citizenship, paid tons of money for it. I am Irish, full stop.
If the mountain doesn't go to Muhammad, Muhammad goes to the mountain. Yep. Okay. My name is Oluwayemi Adenuga. Right. I've been a broadcaster for over 2 decades. But I suppose for RTE, my accent isn't VIP enough to work on the TV or the radio, because I've presented myself a couple of times to RTE, and I'm not working with RTE. I've done a couple of things with RTE, but it was just like a touch here and there. And I suppose at the time, this was a couple of years ago, it was just a little thing to say, you know what, we need to let migrants be represented, so do 1 or 2 things for us, and that's it. And then the door was closed again. In 2008, we were sitting in this very hall. One Nigerian lady who was at the time working with the World Bank was here to present a lecture with RTE, Dr. Ngozi Okojo-Iweala, and we're in this hall. It was jam-packed, and there were less than 10 migrants in this room. And we were a bit upset about it, and we spoke about it, and I suppose that kind of spurred up the things that I subsequently did for RTE. But nothing's happened since then. The points I'm trying to make, I'm just going to go straight to them. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, sir. Kevin. Yeah. You talked about RTE thinking about representing the migrant community or the different ethnic communities. And Chinedu said, 15 years RTE has been thinking. In my experience, for 6 years, RTE has been thinking. Stop thinking, just do it. That's one. Secondly, nobody's going to be perfect when they come on air the first time. Migrants can get it right the first time. Let them make their mistakes. What's RTE for? You can train people. There are certain people who have the talent, they have the know-how, but they probably don't even have the training yet. And that's why we have stations like RTE. People can be developed and trained to come to that standard where they can go on air. So please, if we can consider training people who are interested in becoming broadcasters, that would help a great deal. It will encourage people to step forward. I do a lot of broadcasting work still, but I don't do it in Ireland. I go to the UK. Almost twice a month I go to the UK. And RTE is here. So that's very quickly the third point. This issue of accent seems to be generating a lot of, discussion. People have said that if you want to present an idea, you have to put forward an Irish company to represent you. Because first of all, when they hear your name, when she said that, I could associate with that because I think it is true. When they see your name, that's the first thing that is a no-no. You're marked off. Then secondly, if they believe that you don't have the required experience, they haven't given you the chance to actually see your experience. So they ask you to put forward an Irish company that will represent you and put forward your idea. People are not interested in doing that. They want you to see their idea as their idea. So there are loads of ideas. How many people do we have in this room? I believe we're more than 100. Over 100 ideas sitting in this room. Please listen to them. Thank you.
Andy, can I answer a couple of those points quickly? Is that all right? Just a couple of things that Dill mentioned actually to pick up on. The idea about training contributors and Women on Air. I mean, Women on Air is a fantastic initiative here, and they've done great work. And actually, we've worked with them quite a lot. And we had an event here last year where we jointly arranged for a couple of dozen women to come in and get training and so on, so they were more confident about going on air. And I think your idea about whatever you want to call it, diversity on air or whatever, is a good idea. And I'm sure that's something, if that was an initiative, I'm sure that's something RTE would like to be involved in and would be happy to get involved in. You touched on recruitment again, and a couple of people have touched on recruitment, and I can only speak from my own experience here. And people keep sort of intimating or saying that it's about who you know, not what you know. Now, my experience in the last year and a half or 2 years, that's just not true. We go when we can, and we haven't been recruiting many people, but when we have public competitions, it is pretty rigorous. It is very rigorous. We go out there, we look at, what experience people have, what they've done, are they well suited to the job. It's nothing to do with who they know. It's more what they've done, and we judge them on their track record. And you did touch on experience. Someone touched on experience, but I mean, experience is important when we're recruiting into news and current affairs. We do look for people who've got experience. It's not to say we shouldn't, at the other end of the spectrum, try and bring people on, train people. Of course we should, but it's in the newsroom. It's quite important when we recruit people. They do have the relevant experience. And I would just say the last thing. Someone again, this phrase VIP voice has come up. I do think there is an issue about us being more open to a range of accents. I don't think it's about VIP voice, and it's certainly not about D4 voices. We have a range of Irish voices on, but we should, in my view, we should be more open about having accents on that are not obviously native Irish accents, and I do think that's work we should be looking at.
Hi, my name's Glenn Killane, and I'm Managing Director of Television, so I just thought I'd be another target for you. I don't want to be remiss of me to allow Kevin respond. There's been a lot of talk about the accents, and I think, firstly, I'm not here to defend where we're at in RTE right now. I think we all realise in RTE that we can do a hell of a lot more and a hell of a lot better across a range of different areas, whether that is representing people with disabilities, as Kevin pointed to, representing women. So there's a hell of a lot more work we can do. On the accents question, I'm not aware of any issues that have arisen within television where somebody has been excluded from television on the basis of their accent. Not to be flippant about it, but have you watched Love Hate? A lot of people complain that they can't understand what a lot of the characters in Love Hate are saying. So I don't believe that is an issue, and if it is an issue, I'd like to be made aware of it. I think today is a very welcome step. I'd like to kind of say that this is the first step. It's long overdue. It should have happened a long time ago. But it's been very useful for me and colleagues in the genre heads, etc., to hear the range of views here and to understand some of the issues that are coming up regularly. We're not perfect. We have a lot of work to do, but there is a very, very willing team here that want to engage with different communities within Ireland. We have a huge amount of work to do. In terms of recruitment, I would be unhappy about the range of socioeconomic classes represented within RTE staff alone, regardless of ethnicity. So we have a huge amount of work to do. It is an enormous challenge, and I think a lot of our attention has been diverted in recent times to our economic situation within RTE. We've had to take an awful lot of our staff out. We've lost over 25% of our staff in recent years, in the last 4 years. We've been going backwards at a rate of knots in terms of recruitment. And we have to, at some point, bring new blood through. And it is really, really important that we're hearing your voices today, and that these issues are brought to the fore now, because there will come a time in the near future when we will begin to recruit again. And you can be sure that those of us present here will be representing these views when we are recruiting again. Thank you.
My name is Aisling Toomey. I work as the Communications Officer for Pavy Point Traveller and Roma Centre. I've obviously been sitting here for the last hour. One person has mentioned travellers, and there has not been one single mention of the Roma community. Last October, 2 Roma children were removed from their families, and RT were on the phone consistently to my desk, to my office, to the people I work with, to ask them for reactions on it. Not once since has any journalist, any member of RT rang back to ask, oh hey, how did that go? Do you have any other reaction to it? Can we speak to a Roma member of the community? Just because something fades out of memory does not make it irrelevant, and there's a huge Roma community in Ireland who are completely underrepresented. In relation to travellers, there are almost 40,000 of them on this country. You didn't mention it yourself. Not only did you leave out the disabled community, but you also left out travellers, and I appreciate that you're getting the hard end of the stick here, but that's just unfortunate as far as I'm concerned. I think if you're looking at something like the Audience Council, which has 15 people who are extremely competent sitting on it, there were vacancies recently that were filled. I think that's great. I think you need to make sure that there's one for travellers, one for Roma. You need to make sure that ethnic minorities are covered. I think this event was poorly titled. I think it's fine to talk about migrant representation, but there are a lot of people here who were migrants once upon a time, who've got kids who are Irish now, who identify as Irish now, and there are plenty of Irish living in this country who feel just as unrepresented as many others. So I think this should be focused on ethnic minorities, and that might help us an awful lot more in the future. And the last thing I would like to do is ask you specifically for an answer to a very specific question. About 2 months ago, Jason Byrne, the comedian, was on the Tubridy show with Ryan Tubridy, and he used the term knacker, which I think is absolutely appalling. I wrote a complaint to RTE, which has gone into RTE, and they tell me that knacker has a secondary meaning, and that meaning is ne'er-do-well, or a person who's not generally acceptable as being worthwhile in society. I don't understand how the term knacker can ever be used or justified by a television corporation, and I find it appalling that I got a letter back from RTE to tell me that. I think that if you're going to talk about representing people, you have to be really, really honest about the way you do it, and the term knacker is completely not okay.
I'll be very.
The whole room
I'll be very quick.
My name is Declan Hayden. I work with the Office of Integration in Dublin City Council for 10 years. There was a question asked earlier about who loses out in this and who's not getting representative. You mentioned the audience and you mentioned young people, very true. I think RTE is the biggest loser. I have worked with 10 years with this community and they are the most diverse group of people and have huge things to offer. They are an audience. You're missing out on them. They also are businesses. They advertise. They are not just migrants lining up to get a little bit of a voice on. They can give you revenue. And it is a whole approach to this question of how do we get the migrants onto television. You should be asking how you represent Ireland, of which of all these people in the room are representative of Irish. I don't know how long you have to be in the country to be considered Irish, but that's what you should be moving forward. I'm delighted you're taking step 1, but please work with the people in the room so you don't have to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over the next 10 years. You can get to step 15 very quickly. The other one point, if you want suggestions, is that every single piece of media you do needs a story of some form. And every one of these people in this room, along with many more, have stories, and not just for Nationwide, which I think is absolutely brilliant, but for your political shows, your business shows, your Lyric FM, the middle of the night stories. Talk to these people, take their names, and then get your researchers to write to them and ask them, can you send me in something the next time I'm looking for food or religion or sport, whatever it may be. But use the steps that are here now. Don't take another 10 years to do it. That's what I would try to appeal to you. You're the ones losing out because there's huge diversity advantage in this country and you can gain from that asset. It's not a negative thing. That's all I need.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Pamela Tonya Kinjobi. I want to salute speakers and the group behind this initiative, because this is a research field that has been unexploited for many years. Now, many years ago, before I went on to do my internship with the Immigrant Council of Ireland, I used to apply to TV3, and every time I would get a letter to say, it was like they had a structured letter for me, and every time I sent an application, they just had to put my name and send it back to say, you're not suitable for this position, we're very sorry, and stuff like that. So I used to ask myself many questions, including these two. If television is actually the mirror of life, why would the Irish television mirror not reflect multi-ethnic Ireland today? And now that we have a lot of migrants that are part of the society, part of the history of Ireland, why would they have little or no space in the most influential media in Ireland? So I decided to go for a master's in international relations. I said, well, I'm trained as a journalist in UK and in Ireland, and if I'm not suitable to work here, then I'll try starting a profession in the diplomatic world. But today, Mr. Kevin, I'm here. I'm volunteering myself. I'm also trained as a TV presenter in Ireland, so in UK. So I'm not just a journalist, I'm a TV presenter. And my suggestion is I'm volunteering myself. So you start with me before the diplomatic world whisks me away. Thank you.
Can we make it further here?
Thank you. My name is Migrant. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm really happy. And just to ask a few questions as well to the audience, but especially a question to Logan, who's one of my friends who hasn't been able to be here, but he's now, I suppose, got the invitation. My question is that I come from a country, Spain, where almost everyone watches all the TV in Spanish. Everything is being voiced over, and that's why perhaps Spanish people have difficulties to speak English because they are not used to the accents. And my question to you is that there is a challenge to start broadcasting perhaps some kind of episodes where you could perhaps have people speaking in their mother tongues and have subtitles, and perhaps you have, for example, NEAR TV or other examples in Ireland where they have programs in Portuguese, in Spanish. So this will be a win-win opportunity both for Irish and for people from other countries, Brazilians, Spanish, and people from everywhere that could benefit. I know there is a challenge with the subtitles, with the languages. I don't know if there is budget for that, but I know that the BBC has this type of programs, educational programs. And just to congratulate you, because for St. Patrick's, I know I'm wearing green, just to, you have some kind of, you have a program just covering the whole, what happened during St. Patrick's, and you went to Marion Square, and some of my friends from Brazil, part of the samba band called Moro 16, were there. They are not only Irish, they are Brazilians, and they were on TV for the first time. I hope you invite them here to a show. I'm just a friend, not the public representative. But my question to you is that do you think that taking into consideration that Polish, Brazilian, Spanish, South Americans from Venezuela, from Argentina, from everywhere are living in this country, do you don't think there's an opportunity to start to allow them to speak in their mother tongues, perhaps even, I don't know, it could be a mix. They could come here and they could maybe have their own program where I suppose part of the audience could ask questions through, I suppose, maybe an interpreter or something like this. And I know that English, I suppose, is spoken by a big majority of the world, but how many people have English as mother tongue? English is not my mother tongue. I've been here for 10 years, and I hope that I'm able to communicate in English and through other languages. And again, thank you, and I'm really happy that Logan is here, because, as I say, it's not even easy for people who don't have the opportunity to come, and just thank you for all. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Liu. I'm the chairperson of the Association of Chinese Professionals in Ireland. And also I'm a lecturer in computer science in Dublin Institute of Technology for 12 years. I'd like to share my very limited experience with media in Ireland. I was in RTE TV show. One is in afternoon show, which was approaching Chinese New Year. My whole family was invited to the room, so it's very nice. And another experience was 2008 when people was discussing should Ireland boycott the Olympics in Beijing or not. Certainly you can guess what was my opinion. Yes. And I actually was interviewed by Dee quite a few years ago. Also, again, it's Chinese New Year. So I'm kind of feeling, yes, we are kind of involved in the society, but in very limited degree. We're kind of like one of the decoration in the Christmas tree. Yeah, but we want to be a branch. Yeah, so we want to get advice how we can involve more, because certainly we have a big audience here. We have many different expertise and knowledge in different area, for example, economics or politics. And we like to see we are in the panel to discuss general election or financial situation or even a Celtic tiger, alive or not. So this would be my question, how we can involve more, because this is our country, our home now. And I have been living in Ireland for nearly 18 years. And to be honest, this is the longest ever place I ever lived. So Dublin is my home. I'm proud of that. Thank you.
And Andy, can I just I know you could say that, yeah, but I can't hold the thought for that long.
Could you try, maybe, could you come up with some suggestions for how RTE could involve migrants at this late stage in the proceedings? I'd be grateful.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Shan, and have loads of personal identities. And actually, one of my identities, I'm a presenter at Hello China, which is a radio program sponsored by the Dublin City 103.2 FM. So I think Dublin City FM is a really good example you can learn from. They're operating a series of different kind of programs for international people. So they have Korean show, they have Hello China, they also have a program for other ethnic groups. What I want to stress that all of these programs are sponsored, are actually operated by volunteers, so they are immigrants. So Dublin City FM just gave the whole responsibility to international people. So you choose whatever you want. And because I really appreciate the trust they give us. So everybody in my team, we have both Irish people and Chinese people in our team. And every member in my team, we're trying our best and to make the program. So maybe that's a kind of model and you can copy. Maybe if you feel it's too risky to give a responsibility to international people to organize a program, maybe you can try like a video on demand. It's like channels with a less influential power, or you can just try to do some very short programs such as a 20 minutes dialogue, whatever. So I think that's a really successful example you can copy or you can learn from. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, my name is Godfrey. I'm a financial advisor. I'm involved in the community a lot and politics the whole lot. I'm also a radio presenter on Spirit Radio for the last 3 years. Now, I believe that most of the people that are young, that are getting into those kind of media roles are people, for instance, I worked on Pirate Station for a very long time until RTE Pulse came and killed the whole pirate station industry because they started playing the music that everyone else was playing. You'll find at this moment of time there are a lot of young people that are creating their own programs on YouTube and people are watching them with big views. Of late, I also wanted to also point out there have been some people of color that have been on TV, like the reality shows. I remember I had friends who were on Ireland's Got Talent. Marcus Valentine was on Fair City for about 4 or 5 weeks, then he got cut off because they couldn't control him. But there have been producers. I think the problem is producers. If producers come to our community, see what's out there, see even the talent that's out there, it's easy for them to cast. That's one of the main things. They come to the festivals, if they come to the events, if they come to our debates in our communities, forums in our communities, they begin to not only learn, they begin to understand. Even when a Kidwa did their event on Saturday, if they had come there, they would even meet some of the candidates that are running in the next elections. You know, another thing that I think that can help is actually creating a department. Most of the way that immigrants are actually now getting involved, even to help even places like Dublin City Council, is because Dublin City Council have an integration department. So if you were to create something like that, that creates people who are actually doing that on a daily basis, making sure that there is 13% of that coverage there. All right. Okay. Since it's just one more. Oh, for Fair City, I think one of the ways that you can actually incorporate is what EastEnders does, what Coronation does, is actually have a family for once, not an individual, a family in the program that has the accent, that is living in it. If you put a family there, I guarantee we will watch it because it's a family and it's got the young, the old, the restless, the whole lot.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zev Ike. I'm an innovation student and I coordinate the Black History Month in Ireland. And I've run some programs with the campus radio in University College of Cork under diversity and culture. But what I'm seeing here is RTE still see themselves as a monoculture broadcasting media, where in this 21st century, we are in an innovative state. It quite amazed me that everybody here, we have a very wide culture. And Africa, as I come from, is very rich in culture. And through the little research we've made, we find out that a lot of immigrants in this country don't watch RTE because they find out they're not involved. A lot of immigrants have Sky, and that is the program they watch. And some of them, we've asked them, they said, look, we are not covered, we are not part of the structure. And like people have talked about Fair City, you look at some of the Easterners or wherever in the UK, you find black people involved in there. But I think also, my own contributions is this. If RTE cannot involve immigrants, why don't the immigrants find a content, find a platform? Because the world is all about competition. Innovation is about adding values. It's all about competition. Why don't we find a platform whereby maybe RTE can be looking for the immigrants? Thank you.
My name is Deji Adenuga. My voice is not good, so you're just going to bear with me. I'm not a broadcaster. I'm the producer of Nigerian Carnival Island. Ebon talked about the power of television, power of the media. Declan talked about RT being at the loose end. Chinedu talked about policy and content. Then Kevin mentioned something. He talked about the law. Do you remember that? Law. Now, I'm going to bring all this together. An average Irish, when he meets you on the road as a black man, the first thing he feels for you is pity. He has pity for you, a black man. Why is that? Most of them are so used to the adverts, the concern adverts, trocker adverts they see on the TV. And they think that is how much suffering that is in Africa. They think you are also very hungry. Maybe you got quickly fed. They don't know. There was an argument on TV3, sorry, not TV3 now, it was a radio station, a phone-in program. The person said, I'm so person from Nigeria, originally from Nigeria, I'm a medical doctor. The person on the other line said, shut up, you cannot be a medical doctor. You can only be a hungry man. Now, that is just because of what they see on the screen every time. That is the representation of the Africa in their minds. You see the power of the TV? Now, if RTE can just open up a bit, and I know it's going to be difficult, and this is why the 15 years you talked about, Chinedu, this is why they have been on it for 15 years. I'll tell you, the law that you talked about. You cannot achieve anything by yourself if the law does not permit you. I work in this industry in Nigeria, and I'm familiar with the ratio of your local content and as against international foreign content. So there is a limit by which you can operate. If you want to absorb everybody here, the law will restrict you. The policy will not allow it. But Chinedu also said, when the board here faces out, their term faces out, the new board, and that is why I am not too worried about what is happening now, because I know that another board is coming. You see, our children, as they are coming, there's no way they won't take over, because they don't see themselves as immigrants again. You see Obama in America, nobody sees him as. You see, when you are able to harness, somebody talked about the ideas in this hall, if you're able to bring together all these ideas, it will help RTE to maintain the position that it's supposed to have. Now, suggestions. Just one suggestion. Just one suggestion. Stop looking at programs for immigrants. Look at immigrants doing programs for everybody. Let me stop there.
Good evening, everybody.
My name is Lassan Widrago. I'm originally from Burkina Faso. I might be one of the people who don't watch RTE or follow your program. But I'm here tonight because it's something I thought that it's an opportunity for me to come and contribute. And one thing I'm going to talk about is what we have heard about policies and law, and also speaking about accent and so on. When I came to Ireland, I didn't have any word in English, only French. Today I'm managing to speak. And that I know from where I came from. But if RTE or Ireland want to welcome immigrants and migrants, they should think of looking back at these policies or law made 20 years back before Ireland become a diversity, country of diversity. Why will you keep standing at that point while we look at here how many people, somebody was saying like about 100 people. It's more. There are many more outside who would have loved to be here to contribute and to feel part of the society, Irish community and the society. But they're not feeling that they will be listened or the idea will be taken into consideration. I wish it would be like tonight was a political debate, which I would feel more comfortable of talking about laws and policies. We have in Ireland like Akidwa, Africa centers, others, immigrant and migrant communities. Please sponsor them to organize everybody into brainstorming for a half day or days, once or twice, and they will bring you solution. Because this, I am here, but I don't feel that is for me. Because I wouldn't be able to say what I really want to say. So my suggestion is, if you really want to welcome everybody and have a program that will really integrate all migrants and immigrants in Ireland, do that. I've seen a policies behind immigration where people have been kept in a system called asylum system, where you have doctors, journalists, all background, engineers, and they've been destroyed because of these policies. And at the end of it, you want them to be part of the society. It's not possible. You need to do something now to get everybody contributing and feel welcome and part of the society. And my suggestion is thinking of sponsoring those who can sit for a half day, come with solution programs and ideas where RTE will be really welcome within the migrant community. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Colonel Jiache. I come from Zimbabwe. And it is my great pleasure to be here this afternoon to come and contribute to this noble cause or the change that is actually coming into Ireland. They say, if you want to know me, you have to live with me. Where I come from, the first broadcasting machine that we used from where I come from was donated by RTE. And I had very high spirits about RTE. And only to realize when I came into Ireland that the RTE that I used to think about is not the RTE that is here. I don't know, RTE, to be very frank with you, you have failed dismally. Whoever is designing policies, whether it is the broadcasting authority or it is the RTE itself, you have actually failed. I know, I can't even express it because, when I came into Ireland, I used to run a lot of functions. I used to write letters to RTE, inviting RTE to just come and maybe make a coverage. They don't even reply you. They don't even reply you. I don't know whether they get the letter or not. I don't even know. And when I came into this complex today, I think I had to spend almost about 20 minutes trying to actually locate this place. We are the many manners. We make things happen in Ireland. But because RTE is so apprehensive in covering migrants, we're not going anywhere. Integration in this country is being done in piecemeal. It's being done in piecemeal. Integration can only be done by RTE. RTE can do the most meaningful integration that we talk about every day. And I just hope what we are talking about today is actually bringing in transformation. And it's not just a mere talk show, like somebody said. I'll be very, very grateful to see the RTE tomorrow having a program that is involving migrants. Tomorrow, starting from tomorrow, we have a program, even this one, where we are today, the way we are seated here, we have that program. Day before yesterday, I think Akidwa, NCP, and other groups, they came together to try and actually help those who are campaigning for elections. You know, they want migrants to actually vote for them. How can they? They feel that they were not part and parcel of Ireland. Then RTE is not inclusive at all. And I wonder what you are doing there, Kevin. What are you doing there? In your own sense, you know? Okay, you wouldn't need this audience to sit down to tell you what you know. You know it's wrong. Let's have an inclusive TV programming, radio programming for everybody else in Ireland. Thank you very much.
Andy, I have a very quick point. Very quick point. It'll be 30 seconds.
25 seconds.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. But one point is, don't let anyone pigeonhole you. Exactly as the gentleman said, just because you're a migrant, you shouldn't be talking about migrant issues. That's why I'm still broadcasting with Newstalk, because they wanted a migrant to talk about migrant issues. And after 6 months, I went back to them saying, that's not good enough. I want to be able to talk about all issues. And that's why I'm still there. And the most important issue, 21st of March, is next Saturday. It's the International Day to Eliminate Racial Discrimination. RTE, you're the public broadcaster, you have a responsibility to do this job right, because it's going to stop racism. Racism is a problem in Ireland. Right now, there's racist incidents happening every day. If we don't change the system now, and we don't reflect the diversity in Ireland, in RTE, and actually media in general, people are going to die. I'm sorry to be very alarmist, but that's the truth.
Okay. First of all, a member of the audience spoke about being referred to as a black person. Personally, I am black. If you call me a black man, I will answer, even though my color is brown. So that's very important that we accept who we are. The second thing is in relation to getting immigrants to talk about themselves. There are certain things we don't expect RTE to ask us to come and talk about. If you look at the trial in South Africa, that's a news piece. I don't expect RTE to start asking South African to start reporting on what is happening at the courts. We need to get some of those things right. The other issue is in relation to the researchers and producers. I know many people spoke about researchers and producers in RTE. I must say that my own experience is different. I wouldn't live here without mentioning that I know so many of them. And from time to time, they call me looking for ideas. When they are researching on different topics, when they are looking for speakers, I do introduce people to them. So it's not all that negative, having said all the things I've said in the past. Thank you very much.
We are very open
and we do listen to you. I'm very humbled by everything that you've said to us today, and obviously there is not enough time to respond to all those questions and ideas that you've raised, but we do all have email addresses. This is mine. It's very difficult probably to see from here, but it's Z for Zebra, as usual, A for Alice, L for Lorcan, I for Indigo, N for Niamh, S for Siobhan, and Z for Zebra at rte.ie. I'm actually very easily Googleable, and not that I have a huge presence or anything like that, but you will find Zalinsky is my surname, Z-A-L-I-N-S-K-I. Write to me, and let's start this conversation, and that's the place where we can start. And all of us have emails here, and we are a very open organization. I can promise you that.
Okay. First, I just want to say thank you so much, because I mean, like, I know the panel, we've not spoken much, but I'm just excited to see the energy, that is coming from the audience. And for me, that is the proof, that this is a timely event that we've put together, that there is passion, and that there's so many people that still want to make comments. Again, also so many, I don't know, we might not know them, but there's quite a number of them, RT staff, who are here today. Again, that begins to show us there's a true willingness, on the part of RTE, to make a change. I was in the newsroom this week, with a couple of RTE staff, and again, most of the people I met were actually interested. They were actually looking forward to it. They're looking to do something. So I think that the timing is right, the passions are right. So hopefully something positive is going to come out of this. And one thing I will say, I mean, I can't remember your name, but from the back there, you mentioned the diversity officer. And I think that might be something that RT should look at. I attended a program, was it last year or 2 years ago, the Mediva project about diversity. It was 7 nations came together to do that. And one of the speakers who came in from the Netherlands, they have a brilliant system that works. And one of the things he said helped them is that they have a diversity officer. Yeah. That he doesn't just look at specific programs, he looks at the whole organization, and he looks at how diversity works across the whole space. So again, from little things that will cost us no money. So Salome, you said the same thing. Even just getting, on Top British Show or one of the shows, making sure that there is 10% migrants, making sure that there are 2% people with disabilities, making sure that there are 40% women. So look at the demographics and make sure. Because, again, I don't care what we need to call it, whether it's positive affirmation or positive discrimination, if we've been kept back for so many years, there's nothing wrong with 10 years of positive affirmation if we have to do that, to make sure that, people catch up or people, come to those spaces. So people with disabilities, gender, ethnicity, all of those things, we have to try and balance them out. And we have to look at it also. RT, you absolutely have something to gain. So this is not just us taking. You have something to gain. This is 15% of your audience you're losing. You're losing them to the UK, you're losing them to the States. And not just now, we're saying in the next 10 years, if you don't catch our kids, they are completely lost to iCarly and iBoily and all of those things, that they watch. So we want to make sure that they're watching this. We don't just want to watch RTA for the news. We want to watch it for programs. For young people, and that's one suggestion, that's one thing that really bothers me. For young people, I think our Irish kids, black, white, green, purple, whatever color they are, we're keeping them years behind their US counterparts. Because if you look at the States, because my kids are usually on the Sky things and watching all those US things, those kids have been presenting programs for years. So by the time they are 15 and 20, they are so far gone. And if our kids are not being taught now, and I don't just mean migrant kids, I know I'm going out of my space, because, we're Irish and we're trying to go beyond color, gender, and all those things. If our kids are not being taught now to occupy those spaces, by the time they are 20 and they need to compete with the international world, they will be 10 years behind the rest of the world. We need to start now. We are losing 15% of our economy, of our income to other stations. We want to keep it Irish.
Thank you, Andy. My God, my mouth is dry not talking. I come from the last century, you know. I've been here in the 80s, 90s, the kid around the block. I remember I met Morally in the canteen one morning, 6:30, in 95, and we had the first international food festival when I was a mayor of Blackrock with the Eurovision Song Contest. We were able to do things even then. But the thing is, we have to motivate ourselves to do things. We got to put the pressure on the system, the society, just like our friend from Offaly is a tourist like me. So, and Fair City is not fair anymore. And then we'll have a problem that in Fair City we have only people of African origin, or, you know, in Fair City, what about the Asians? What about the Latin Americans? Because I'm involved with all of them. We have different issues to cover. And coming to talk about, you know, I was an accountant. And then I became a chef, and I was a photographer for the Miss Ireland Miss World contest. I had my pictures on RT, and tell you something else. Martin King, the guy from TV3 with the weather report, he and Sunshine Radio. Anybody here remember Sunshine Radio? I was asked to be a radio presenter, newscaster. So the opportunities were even there. But the thing is, whether we grab on it, we knock on the door and make sure people open the door. We do not want flash in the pan programs. They just come up for festivals or New Year's and then boom, it's gone. You got to wait for another monologue, pardon the pun. So there are a lot of people. I was an entrepreneur. I pay taxes. I've had, if I give you the list of things I've done, it's shocking. I'm still on the board of the Integration Center. We still try to do a lot of work. But we are people who are professionals. Like you say, my friend who was out in the street thinking that he's poor, he got no food. Well, I hope somebody offered you some food, my friend. Did anybody offer you any food? Even your own countrymen? No. When I was in Blackrock, I remember in the Mat at the pub, we still had the thing, penny for the blacks. I am very serious. In the spa in Ranelagh where I used to live, penny for the blacks, or other organizations. So this is where we have to go back to the past. We have to know how to understand. There were South African Asians who were doing medicine in Ireland. Malaysians who were doing medicine and different, you know. Okay, I was an accountant. Do you know that there are people, my fellow Malaysian Chinese colleagues who are engineers in Dublin City Council, including Cork? There were opportunities. But then you couldn't get a damn work permit. And then all of a sudden, the influx of work permits. Yes. So now the thing is, we were broadcasting, but RT also covered the negative aspects. Flash in the pan programs. So I watch Sky every night, okay, to catch up on the Malaysian plain news as well. Don't ask me, I'm not psychic, but I know it's somewhere. I forecast 2 weeks ago what was happening, and it is happening today. But the thing is, we have opportunities, and we have to break the ice. We have to get the right people. We have to have a think tank. How to get the message across to people. If RT, they are intelligent people. If they are losing business, they've got to do something about it. So just like the other stations. I remember during the last elections, I remember Dill was with us and a few other colleagues. I was involved with News Talk to get all the independent candidates to have a program, to have a talk, to let people know. It takes a foreigner to do these things. But I've had Irish colleagues of mine who are willing to do things as well, but they were suppressed or oppressed, politically correct. When I was employing people, I was in the south side, Blackrock, Fosrock, wow, we were ula-di-la-la, we were above, okay? And when I employed people, I had a problem, because they were called the Havaists. Havaists, Vijay says, he's a roid, yes. So, hold up, I have to finish, I'm sorry. So the thing is, there was discrimination then, and this was brought up to RT before, about people discriminated the north side and south side. Why they did not get on the programs. So there are so many different issues. It's an ongoing thing. It's a negative going concern. Okay? So we have to do certain things about it, and we have to get there. And we have to, I said earlier on, participation, social inclusion, and we have to integrate. And thank God that we have the integration office, that I've been involved with them for many different things as well. So I just have to say, you guys out there, go out and do something, stand outside RT if possible, but be good friends with Kevin. We cannot oppose the people either, because we are creating the fear. We are not just walking into the country, we are invading the country. So you got to remember that. We are invaders, okay? So you got to get that thought out of people's mind. Thank you. Thank you, Andy, before you tell me to stop. There's huge energy and great ideas in this room, so I'll let you have the
Okay. I just want to say that I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to respond individually to people because there are a lot of points that kind of needed a response, but we obviously didn't get the chance to do it along the way. But I'd echo the point from earlier on. We're on, all the RT people are on obvious email addresses, and if the things you want to pick up with me, I do respond to emails most of the time. I'd just like to say a few things really to pull out of it. I do think it's worth considering, it is worth going back to that thing about considering some sort of diversity on air group. I think it's a very positive way of getting people more confident to come on air, and actually it's a good mechanism for us to find people. And I would pick up on that point about researchers. Researchers here is partly a function of the cuts and so on, but the researchers here are under a lot of pressure, and there is a default thing about going back to people who you've had on before. They're easy to get hold of, they're tried and trusted, and it is partly about us trying to change mindsets, partly about us trying to have enough staff to have the time to do that, but it's also partly about trying to make it easier for them to find people, and that may be one way of trying to do it. I do think the idea of a diversity officer is well worth us looking at, actually, and like Brian Dalton, as I say, is here and he's nodding his head, so I think that would be a positive thing for us to look at. One point I would make is I think it's really important that, I think generally it's really important that we don't just, someone mentioned Fair City and the fact that the kind of only sort of non-white member of the cast, or one of the few non-white members of the cast in there is on there and she's an illegal immigrant or whatever. But I do think it's important that overall, representation for us means finding voices on the issues that affect everybody, politics and economics and so on, and that it's not simply about migrant issues, if you like, or new Irish issues, or whatever you want to call them, but that people get involved. So, I would encourage people here, every week at the end of prime time, they say, if you want to be a member of the audience on prime time, ring this number and come on. Come on and go in the audience on prime time and join in discussions about other issues. It's there, it's available for people to go on. Those are easy opportunities to take, and you'd be very welcome. And I would just like to end up by saying, thank you all very much. It's been very thought-provoking. Absolutely it's the right thing for us to be doing to try and address this properly. But I also take on the point that's been made a few times, which is also we have something to gain from doing it as well. And that's a point very well made. So thank you all very much.
Well, I'm not going to say anything else. I thought it was a very passionate and energizing discussion, full of ideas, full of good ideas. If I had 2 minutes, well, I'm not going to take any more of your time. I had 6 or 7 ideas that I took mainly from the audience. So thank you all very much. Congratulations on your ideas and your idealism, and may Irish broadcasting benefit from it. Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.